Welcome back, everyone, to the A24 on the Rocks podcast. It's me, your host, Kelly, coming at you live from the UP as of this recording. We watched this movie called Barely Lethal. Have you seen it before? Why not? You're really missing out. Tonight I'm drinking a Bordeaux, and it's a proper Bordeaux because it is, in fact, from France. Next to me, also sitting in the UP, is my husband.
Yo, it's Eric. We are in Paradise, Michigan on the far eastern end of the UP. We went up here to interview a man that we found an advertisement for him in a public bathroom, and we're going to put that in one of our episodes, so pretty excited. Up next, we have Kevin.
Deep take. Don't go after any walrus-related items during this trip, please and thank you. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I am Kevin K. Konachek, and tonight I am drinking the strongest bourbon in my collection. Dirty Helen bourbon barrel strength, because this movie was so terrible that I had to drink the strongest thing, and that's where we're at. So, next we got.
Hey, it's Cole William Whitlock Gibson. I'm coming at you from Savannah, Georgia. I'm drinking Jefferson's Ocean Age because I needed something to pick my spirits up. So I'm drinking the best whiskey I have because this movie was definitely not it. Up next we got...
Hey, what up? It's your boy Blaze Fitzgerald Ryan. Tonight I am drinking, to be super accurate, I'm drinking a Diet Coke with a splash of Evan Williams, just because I was running late tonight's recording, so I had to use what's left of the old batch. So I envy all of you for actually drinking heavily tonight.
A24 on the Rocks. Well, everyone, thank you for once again tuning in.
Yep.
If you're listening to this episode, you're a special kind of person because why? But as mentioned, we're watching a Nickelodeon film called an A24 film called Disney? Wait.
Disney.
It is A24
Disney
after all,
Plus.
and it's called Barely Lethal. It was released in April of 2015. It never should have been. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and kind of switch things up immediately and ask, did anyone enjoy this movie? Go.
Nope.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, there was, one scene that I thought was pretty good.
We'll get to that.
I hated this movie so much.
I did like every scene that Rob Hummel was in, just because of what a great blessing of a person he is. But no, not even close.
Well, this movie, audience, if you haven't been fortunate enough to have seen it yourself, is about a teenage special ops agent coveting a normal adolescent, fakes her own death, and enrolls in a suburban high school. She quickly learns that surviving the treacherous waters of high school is more challenging than international espionage. It is directed by Kyle Newman. It is starring Hailee Steinfeld, Sophie Turner, Steinfeld.
Yeah. Don't want to mix that up with Jerry Seinfeld there.
You guys, I'm trying to be a very enthusiastic host for you all, and I hope that maybe I'm pulling it off. Samuel L. Jackson's also in this movie. And it had a $15 million budget. So it took 2 months to film. How's that sound, everybody? Good movie?
Nope. Yeah.
Budget sounds way too high for that CGI.
My God. The visual effects in this right off the bat,
all the
horrible.
Samuel L's
I don't know how it...
That's all it was.
Oh,
yeah.
You
don't mean that CGI plane flying
let's
through
talk green screen.
That was just so awesome.
In the post-Marvel age, too, how do you screw that up that much?
All right,
I
one
had
at
to
a
stop
time.
and rewind
Cole,
it.
you haven't talked
Wait.
yet, so Cole, go off. Tell us about your first takes on this
so bad.
Prescott Academy. It's a school for young girls to grow up and be super spies.
Yeah, so my first note was, oh God, is this shitty Spy Kids? Turns out it is. It's just a absolute terrible movie. The way they set it all up, they definitely do a Black Widow-esque like training montage of little girls, orphans, and all that stuff. If you told me this was an A24 film, I would have laughed in your face, because there is absolutely nothing that makes me think that this is an A24 film. This is even like a film that was released in theaters or is considered a movie. This looks like it belongs on like the Disney Channel, and it is like a straight, just like Disney Channel one-off movie that they released that you would watch on like a Saturday night with the boys. Like, I don't understand what's happened in this movie. Everything about it from the get-go gave me bad feelings, and it never got better.
Blaze, I want you to weigh in after that.
Yeah, everything that Cole said and more. I have a personal story about this. I let my girlfriend do laundry at my house as long as she said she would watch this movie with me, and she literally got up and left and got in her car 20 minutes into the film. That is a true story. Rosalie, I'm talking to you. Yeah, everything about this movie was hacky, terrible. Like Cole said, you got very Disney Channel movie vibes, but they got to say like swear words every once in a while. It really tried to be a little bit of everything. I really saw them try to be like a Mean Girls, for example. They actually referenced Mean Girls in the film, just how badly they wanted to be it. Going back to CGI, I had no idea they still did CGI on like MS Paint. It was so terrible. It reminded me of what's that one with Tim Curry, that RTS game? I don't know, it's an old 90s game, and the animations, and this is from the 90s, and this movie was in 2015. None of the characters made sense. They belittleized sexual harassment. It was it was literally like shit, and I don't know how much we want to talk about. Like, we can go into more details of the shit, but it was just literally raw sewage that was on my face for 2 hours.
Kevin, it's your turn. Let's hear it.
Wow. I try to not read about reviews and ratings and things on movies before I go into it, because I like to have a pretty clean slate, but this movie was painfully obvious within the first literal minute that this was garbage. And like Cole, I kind of anticipated maybe it getting a little bit better, but it was very clear right off the bat that this director, this writing team, had no intention of actually making a good piece of cinema. They were either given a bunch of money and said, go have fun, or this guy truly thought what he was creating was some sort of high art. I don't know. You've all kind of said it already. It was a Disney Channel movie that was going for way too much. I even heard that they originally got returned a rated R version of this, and then they got it down to like PG-13. I can't even wrap my head around that concept whatsoever. It was an ill-formed movie, ill-formed attempt, terrible waste of my time, and everybody involved should be ashamed.
Cole?
Yeah, so with the rated R thing, for some reason it was rated R, and then they just appealed it. They didn't change any of the edits or cuts, and then they just were like, oh yeah, this isn't actually a rated R movie, it's a PG-13 movie. So I'm just very confused as to whoever reviewed this watched this film and was just like, yeah, this is too hardcore, this has got to be rated R. Either that, or they just like blacked out for how shitty it was. It was like, this might be like some torture shit, like we can't let kids watch this.
A rating so like less people watch it because it's just that bad.
Eric.
The sexual harassment in here, like, okay, what's high school are boys allowed to literally smack a girl's ass, like, in the middle of the hallway and yell fresh meat? Like, you would get suspended immediately. Like, I don't know what kind of school that is, but then even before we get into that, how Hailee Steinfeld gets to the high school, they go on some mission in Chechnya. She just drops into the water, gets into the woods, and somehow is able to find her way to a computer, a phone, and this top secret agent school is not tracking her whatsoever. And I'm guessing she has an ID and is probably sending papers to this exchange program to, go to this new family and go to this new school. And how is this top secret agent school not tracking her at all? How did she get back from Chechnya? Like, I don't know any of... There's no answers for any of this. Yeah.
Man, yeah. Plot holes for days. I know you probably saw this, but when they were looking for the a family that she was going to be a Google site for exchange families, just like, I want to go with you. Did you notice that the dad was Topher Grace with a fun mustache?
He's not in the film at all. They just put Topher Grace with a mustache in there.
I was waiting for him to show up and do some weird, goofy thing, and it's just like, nah.
Right.
He just will never be here.
It's just the
right. Yep. So there we go. We got to highlight is the picture of Topher Grace.
They paid him probably like $100,000 just to have his picture.
Yep. Like the stash man.
Extremely weird.
Good.
The question
Maybe
that
he
I
was
kept
the R rating of the film.
the question that I kept asking myself when I was watching this was like, what age group is this movie possibly for? Because I'm 28. I was a teenage girl. That movie would not have been for me even when I was a teenage girl. That movie's not for me now, having watched all the things that she's supposedly watching to learn how to be a girl in high school. It's not for me now. You guys already mentioned the changing of the rating of the movie. They had to have appealed to get that PG-13 because they thought it was for teenage girls. But who is going to enjoy this? Yeah. It is the weirdest thing, and not in a fun way. It's in a bad way. From start to finish. It's like a Nickelodeon movie. You guys keep saying Disney. I feel Nickelodeon. I feel very like Zoe 101 or that one with the mermaids who live in a water tower. But those ones are actually like watchable if you're a young girl. This is not. This is like...
And I think that's an interesting point, Kelly, because like the name of the title is Barely Lethal. Clearly a play on the idea of barely legal. And so now they're going with teenagers, putting it towards teenagers, marketing it for teenagers, using pictures of teenagers. Hailee Steinfeld is 15 during the filming of this movie. She turned 16 at release. Like, disgusting on every aspect.
Yeah, totally. It's just like really stupid. It's very dumb with this title, with everything. I was doing a little bit of research. I was like, why does this exist? Who wrote it? The person who wrote this movie, I won't even name him, but the things that he has also written are 2 TV shows for Trolls, children's TV shows. Those are the only other things he's written. Respect, I've never written anything. I've not written a movie or a TV show. Good for him. Trolls, the beat goes on. Continue on.
Yeah, clearly.
It's directed by Kyle Newman, who I guess is this big nerd man who has made something called Fanboys, which is a Star Wars comedy. He also wrote a D&D history book. And he has directed a few of Taylor Swift's music videos. Taylor Swift and Hailee Steinfeld are best friends. So there's some weird kind of celebrity thing going on over there where I don't remember who mentioned it, but it was, in my opinion, just here's fun money, here's some actors, go do what you're going to do. I don't even know if I really want to go over the plot much.
What plot?
I'm with you. I don't think we should. That's a good point.
And so also I'm watching Game of Thrones right now. I never watched it when it came out, and Sophie Turner's in here. So it's like I'm watching her play Sansa right now, and then I watch her go to this film where she asks a guy, do you want to hang out or bang out? And it was just like, oh my god, I hit my head. Hailee Steinfeld, this is post True Grit, and True Grit was a universally loved film, and she was in that, and she was acclaimed for that, and she took this film, I'm guessing, she thought it might be kind of an edgy teenage, edgy's going too far, I don't know what kind of category I can put this in, but a teenage movie that will, further her fame, I guess, but I'm sure she's scarred from this movie, because there's so much weird shit going on in here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could put your name next to Samuel L. Jackson and Jessica Alba in a movie. You, in theory, would be like, oh, yay, but then it's this.
I was about to ask...
Do you think Samuel L. Jackson gets asked about this and he just forgets about it or doesn't answer the question?
I was about to ask, how did they get Samuel L. Jackson? But he literally was in Snakes on a Plane, so I can't... he takes movies for money sometimes. He basically just plays Nick Fury in here, so...
Cinematic masterpiece, Snakes on a Plane, is what you mean.
I have this whole theory about not just this movie, but certain movies like this where like comedies that are so bad. I think like most Adam Sandler movies after the year 2012 are like this. You just try to get as much money from a production company as possible, and then you pay off your friends. You say, hey, you know what? You want to go to California for 2 months and get paid X amount of dollars? We don't even have to make a movie, really. It's just going to get released eventually, and it's going to be a small stain on your career, Jessica Alba and Samuel L. Jackson. And they're going to be like, okay, cool, I'll take the $1 million over, my entire legacy. And it's just basically a giant slush fund in Hollywood that a lot of these studios do. When you look at the Scary Movie franchise after the first one, you look at a lot of these like just terrible movies that you don't know how they got created. Kelly, you said I've never written a movie, but clearly you can if you have the right connections, because there wasn't a movie.
And you talked about it. It took 2 months to film, right? So the time commitment for these people is not very big. They can fit this into their schedule, one filming or whatever. It doesn't take too much out of their schedule, and they get paid to fuck around, essentially.
Cash is played by Toby Sebastian, who was also in Game of Thrones. So we have a double Game of Thrones here. But yeah, his character, he was in a band name called Emoticon, and I noticed the first song they played, he's playing acoustic guitar, but there's no guitar in the song. And then, we go on, and the teacher slapped his ass, didn't he? And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the other...
Come on.
So weird.
Oh, yeah, he wanted all that cash. He was
Ass
all up about
slapping
that.
is a big part of this high school, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the fresh meat. It's this guy named Gooch, the class clown, who then gets with the sister of
Rape
our
it,
main
Ralph.
character. Yeah, they call him
Rape
like
it,
Ranky
oh my
something.
God.
Rape
I
it,
forgot
Ralph.
about that.
That's what
Yeah,
the
they
sister
did.
called him. And she ends up with him.
And then he becomes Bernard after he drinks tequila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Guys.
just
worse
just random,
as we
just
keep
like
talking
plot
about it.
holes though. I like how she got like tricked into being the mascot, and then she kicks the shit out of the people that are trying to like steal her. And at the time, everyone's making fun of her and calling her a loser until she goes viral. If you were in high school and someone beat out of the shit of the dog, like the other rival team, I'd be like, "Fuck yeah, that person's."
So for our audio listeners, we don't even put a video out. All of us are just rubbing our faces as if we're in pain the entire time. I just want you to imagine that as you listen to this episode.
I will try and bring some of the positives to this film. One of them was I enjoyed the scene where the dad of Rob, I think, or Roger, the dad of Roger, I can't remember that guy's
Rob
name.
Hummel, probably.
Yeah, and he's in the car, and he's like, "What do you call cute girls? You call them hotties? What do you call them?" And my favorite new saying is going to be a hottie biscotti, because I really enjoyed that.
That one worked for you.
Yeah, so that brought a little positivity in my life, so I'm gonna be implementing that. I also liked seatbelts and condoms.
That was good.
That's a good rule, just in general.
Yep, I did note that one. That was good. Yep.
And then if you smoke weed, you immediately do meth. So I don't know if anyone on this podcast partakes.
Reefer madness,
But
man.
You
Reefer
guys are
madness.
kind of fucked. Also, Steve-O, the Steve-O scene was the best.
How can we forget about Steve-O?
That was the only
Let's
good
talk
part.
about torturer
Yep,
Steve-O.
let's Steve-O one at a time. I want Eric to go first, and then Kevin, you're next.
All right.
Oh, man, when I saw him in this film, I'm just like, man, you must have been desperate for money, because, it's been a long time between Jackass films, and his character, he's literally just like the random torture guy. He didn't say anything for a while, right? Mm-hmm. And so I thought they were literally going to put him in there and have no dialogue for him. And what did he, what did he end up saying? He just says
a bunch of stuff, and he totally gets her.
Yeah. I don't know. Completely forgettable character, but I still, was like, holy shit, there's Steve-O. I was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I feel like a lot of people were watching that movie and couldn't decide if it was actually Steve-O until it got closer, and you're like, wait, this actually is Steve-O. I'm even more confused than when I started.
Yeah.
Blaze, you got anything Steve-O to
Just
say?
what you guys said. I was like legit shocked. I'm so glad Cole just watched this movie. Otherwise, I think we would have completely forgot that Steve-O was in this movie. I remember watching it, and exactly what Cole said. I was like, it looked like a Steve-O lookalike at first. And I was like, okay, that's a little weird. Then I was like, wait, that's actually Steve-O. And then he did his little, torture scene, and then never seen from again. His day on set was over. He did his 2 takes, and he got his paycheck and left.
So insane. I was calling him the silent Steve-O for the longest time. I was like, are they really going to have him in this film and he won't say anything? Why am I not surprised by any choice they make at any corner, at any moment in this movie? Here's some things that I wrote down last week as some questions. What, for you, was the most memorable quote of this movie? Cole, I think you watched the most recently.
Hottie biscotti.
Hottie biscotti.
Hottie biscotti. That's all I got. Hottie biscotti and seatbelts and condoms. Those are my 2.
For me, Eric already spoiled it, but it was Sophie Turner saying, do you want to hang out or bang out? Deadpan. Just deadpan at the middle of this party. I'm just like, that, and there's so many puns, and they are the most low-hanging fruit puns. But that's like the thing that the girl and her true love interest, the AV geek, not Cash the guitar player. That's the thing that they have that Cash will never understand, are low-hanging fruit puns. Eric, do you have a memorable quote?
Gonna be honest, no. I do want to talk about Roger there, the pun guy. He's the AV guy for the school, but who has AV guys at band practice? Nobody. Band practice, you don't have a soundboard guy. And this emoticon band is so huge, I guess, they have a soundboard guy, but, like, I've never heard of a band practice, like, having a soundboard guy. I was so confused by that. Yeah.
Right. What?
I mean, like, Canada sucks a dick. I guess maybe that's, yeah, I love Canada, though, so.
Wait. Aggressive.
It was a quote.
That was a quote. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Fair enough.
Kevin,
All right.
you got
Well,
a quote?
I guess that means it's my turn. There was one particular character that I found myself actually being like, you're okay. And that was the Liz character, Liz Larson. I thought there was some of her one-liners and kind of witty banter that was mildly digestible. And the one line that I actually found pretty entertaining was when she was just, I don't remember who she was even talking to, but she says, look, you may have all these people fooled, but you and I both know you're sketchier than a 2 a.m. Waffle House. And I laughed because I've been into a Waffle House at 2 a.m. and it was very sketchy, and it was one of my favorite memories because it was just so ridiculous, and so that for me was relevant. So
God, I love
There you
Waffle
go.
House so much.
sketchy 2 a.m. Waffle House with the back of house asking if we all wanted vodka as they passed a bottle
Right.
around and prepared our food.
Blaze, do you have a quotable?
Was there a the end line? No,
okay, not
I like
one.
Cole said, I do remember profusely the seatbelts and condoms line, and I actually like laughed pretty hard on that one. I did enjoy all of Rob Humel's scenes. The most memorable part was the two mean girls were clearly like 35 years old, but they still cast them as teenage girls. And I chuckled every time they were on screen because I was like, that girl has like teenagers herself, I bet. Like, that's interesting casting choice.
I'm like at a loss for words, which is horrible as the host of this podcast. I'm just like, my jaws was dropped for the whole film. My jaws dropped even now. I can't believe that this exists. I can't believe it's in A24's world.
What did you guys think of Jessica Alba's role?
Yes, Jessica Alba was also in this movie.
Yeah, for like 5 minutes. I mean,
And it was stupidly obvious from the very first scene that she was an ex-Prescott.
Yes.
Like, all right, you're number one or whatever. Can't wait for that reveal later. In the movie.
Also, like when she gets captured by 83 or whoever by Hailee Steinfeld. Hailee Steinfeld's acting like she's tied up with a bag over her head, but she's not tied up with the bag over her head. How did she end up in that situation? Not tied up with a bag over her head, in with all of the guards.
Maybe she switched herself. She switched.
How do you get that far into it?
The writers couldn't have come up with something interesting or unique of how she captured Jessica Alba. They were just like, you know what? She's captured herself, but not really captured. It's going to be a reverse capturing of the capturer.
Speaking of
Got
that
him.
scene, so that rope comes down, and Jessica Alba's plan was to hitch a ride on Prescott's jet, because that's what it was attached to. So, like, what was her plan after she got away, attached to the people that are trying to catch her?
Yeah. How did she get back from Chechnya? I already asked that, but also, okay, when she comes back from Chechnya, there's a montage of her watching, like, 90s and early 2000s movies, like high school movies, like Clueless. It's a mid-90s movie, and this is supposed to be set in 2015. I'm sorry, but if she, like, Googled, like, high school movies...
High School Musical, man.
Yeah, you'd be probably watching that. You might watch Superbad, you might watch something like that, but, like, Clueless? Like, you're 20 years behind, girl. Come on. Get it together.
Dude, that scene was so cringy in general because, like, Hailee Steinfeld trying to, like, laugh and forced crying and forced emotions. It was like, who taught you to act or allowed you to do these things? Like, it was so...
They've got her, like,
bad.
on the bed, like, on her stomach with her feet up in the air, kicking them, and I'm like...
Right? Just kicking her...
But it was so not endearing, and it was so not real, and it was so robotic. And I'm like, oh, is this part of the irony of a spy pretending to be a teenage girl? if that's what they were going for, which I read some reviews trying to say, like, it's just a like an ironic thing. It's like it like makes fun of all the teenage movies. Isn't it clever? No, it completely failed if that's what it's trying to do. Not once did it seem like it was trying to be tongue-in-cheek about anything. It was desperately trying to be earnest and funny and failing time after time after time.
Time after time.
Yeah, that's a teenage movie.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. If I ever make a bad movie, I can just be like, I was being ironic. Like, everything.
I know. Good point. That is like the
You don't get it?
This is too smart for
The
you,
bad
man.
acting is a play on good
I was also
acting,
thinking.
all right? That's...
Which is actually kind of funny because that's an argument we've had in this podcast before. Like, this is too smart for you. And now we're all just blatantly like, no.
This movie was not smart. We know that. Come on.
It's not.
There's nothing smart about this movie. And also, like, this whole idea of child, like, super spies has been done so many times, and it never works. It never, like, besides Spy Kids
was, I'm like, Spy Kids.
Besides Spy Kids, which is, like, kind of a nostalgic classic for our generation, they've done it with, I think there was, like, a Hannah movie, Hanna movie.
Yeah.
That one was okay. They had The Salt, where it was the chick that was married to Brad Pitt and isn't married to her anymore. I can't remember. She was a Laura Croft.
Angelina Jolie.
I forgot. She did a movie called Salt,
You
which is
forgot
the same
her
concept.
name?
Black Widow's the same
Right,
concept.
I remember seeing that one.
And you got this one. Like, they're just, none of them are really that great. And I don't know what they were expecting to do here. Go, Kelly.
I was gonna name two more. That's the same tangent I wanted to go on. It's an unoriginal concept, and when I was growing up, there were two cartoons that kind of did this concept and a lot better, and that was Kim Possible.
Oh, yes. How could I forget Kim Possible?
Everybody knows Kim Possible, and then there was on Cartoon Network for a short minute they had a show called Totally Spies.
Oh, I remember
And
that.
that was a great show. I loved Totally Spies. So
Was that with the three
Yeah.
girls
It's like
as the
Oh,
protagonists?
I was
Charlie's
thinking of
Angels
Kids Next
kind of
Door.
thing.
Right.
Kids Next Door is kind of same
Even
I
thing.
mean,
Kids Next Door would be in this
there's
wheelhouse.
there's a lot of
Oh, yeah,
spy
no.
stuff in that. Yeah.
Totally Spies was like the 3 teenage Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to look at it.
Yep,
yeah.
very much. And that was great. And it's like there was humor in that. There was endearing characters. There was believability. If one of them had an episode where they wanted to go off and pretend to be in high school, they would have done it so well. Maybe they did do that. I don't know. But this movie failed. Let's talk about the action sequences in this movie.
No.
No. I enjoyed the car chase.
Go off, or Blaze. Tell us more about why you enjoyed it.
I mean, it wasn't anything to like, it wasn't Fast and the Furious or anything like that, but it was kind of believable. Nothing like crazy happened, nothing like unbelievable happened. And it was a little bit, even though I was clearly Sophie Turner at the time, when it first showed up, I was like, okay, this is interesting that, her sister gets shot. And then they switch seats and she goes into oncoming traffic and they do like zigzags like that. But it wasn't anything like, so unbelievable, and it wasn't so boring that I was waiting for the scene to end. It was a competent chase scene. Even though she was in a shitty car and the car behind them was kind of a souped up car. But other than that, that's okay.
There was some really obvious stunt doubles in here. Like, I could tell when the stunt double happened. Like, whenever Hailee Steinfeld was fighting, I could tell when they, like, panned away from her and just showed the back of someone's head, punching or something. I could tell it was a stunt double. It was really poorly done.
I'd have to rewatch it. But I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't pay me money to rewatch this movie. I'm super serial.
We might have the worst A24 film yet. I mean, like, I've given Fs to 3 films. Will this one get an F-? I'll let you know shortly.
Cole, were you going to say something?
We'll see. I just got my notebook back with my notes. I'm going to see if there's anything worth reading in here.
Okay.
So, can we talk about the how obsessed the parents were into sex? Like, every adult was super, like, into, like, sex. There was the perverted teacher that was after cash. There was the mom who was like always assuming they were going to have sex. She oh, you're going to homecoming. I bet you're fucking, like joking. I don't know. And then Rob Humo, whose every single thing was about sex. What is up with adults and sex in this movie? They care more about it than the kids. Help.
And like you talked about too, like the parents divorced, like they talked about the pontoon boat and like the sex implied with that whole thing. And you're right, it was very heavy. Maybe that's where they got the R rating for. They were just laying it on too heavy.
It was also called Barely Lethal, so they were leaning into it the whole time. And also at the end, Samuel L. Jackson just takes the mom and bangs it out in the back instead of hanging out. So.
Oh yeah, and just the idea of like abducting orphans and making them like super spies. There's little sexual undertones on that too. Just like,
Yeah, only women.
Yeah, there is so much of that, and I'm going to take us on a tangent real quick, and then I'm going to bring us right back. There are
because I want to talk about
two YouTubers that both became filmmakers once upon a time in YouTube history. One of them we know as Bo Burnham. He is very well known now, and we will watch one of his movies in the A24 world called 8th Grade later. It's an amazingly done story about teenagers. That'll come in the future. There's this other YouTuber now defamed. His name is Shane Dawson. He is known for a lot of pedophilic undertones. And he made a movie called Not Cool. And it is one of the worst movies of all time. I've never watched that. I've watched little clips of it. But I have a feeling it's extremely similar to this one. And I won't say anything about necessarily the writer, but there's something to be said about the name of this film and the way that the adults interact with the kids and the age of the actors in this movie, and it's all really icky.
Icky!
Yeah, disgusting. Can someone explain to me the reference to totem pole?
I asked Eric about that too.
Randomly throughout this movie?
I have no clue.
Why did she say nickel? Why was everyone saying nickel?
Nickel and totem pole, at least like random 2 or 3 times. Am I missing something? Is this a jive slang that I didn't know about from 2015?
I think that was the point. I think it was just supposed to be like high school slang and for that specific high school. I mean, I don't remember my high school doing that, but I'm sure there were certain phrases that we only said like regionally,
No, I think that whoever wrote this thought they were like fucking super smart and they were going to develop a whole new slang insane and thought that they were going to be, kind of like horrible bosses when they had the phrase, bend him over a barrel and show him the 50 states. That was a funny line that made no sense, but people say it now. And they probably thought, hell yeah, we're going to get people to start saying that's nickels. No, like, come on. What the fuck?
Yeah, you can't make fetch happen, as a much better movie would say.
Another weird thing about this movie is that, I forgive me, I don't remember his name, but Hailee Steinfeld completely blows off AV Guy the entire movie, right? She makes it painfully obvious. She makes it painfully obvious that her and Roger are just friends. And then at the homecoming, because they weren't really hitting off on talking at the snack table because Cash had a legitimate reason to save his voice because he's going on stage, she's like, fuck this guy. Where's my man, Roger? And he's with Sophie Turner. And that makes complete sense because she never showed an inkling of liking him the entire film. At least, in other, teenage romantic comedies, it's like, will they, won't they, will they, won't they? They just made puns at each other all movie. And he said she was pretty to her dad once. I don't know. It was just a complete, we're here, we need them to get here. Okay.
Right, that you see coming the entire time.
Right.
There's no built-up chemistry, because, their chemistry was puns, and really horribly written puns, so there's just no built-up chemistry.
And the only reason she finds out she doesn't like pretty boys, because he can't do puns, so it was just, double.
Right, but usually the bad guy in teen movies is overtly evil and she just doesn't see it because he does it behind her back or whatever. But he was real when they went to Waffle House, or going at pancakes at the party or whatever, did he did they not talk there? Did they just sit in silence and drink coffee? Right. And I don't know. He didn't earn not having her, I guess is my point.
I was expecting Cash to be a double agent, or not a double agent, a secret spy for the bad person, and for him and Sophie to team up. But obviously that was too smart for this movie, so they were just like, he doesn't like puns. And then they fucking tossed him
To be
aside.
fair, that is a deal breaker. So
God.
Sorry, random note. Kelly, you asked
Only hates
earlier about
puns.
quotes that were either good or bad, and I wrote 2 other ones down, and we got to talk about them for one other reason than content filler. There was an insult that you look like a one-night stand with Mr. Potato Head. I laughed a little bit at that one. I enjoyed that line. And then the other one was when they were fighting, and she said something about P90 XL bitch, and I laughed at that one as well.
Yeah.
Classic P90.
Taken out of context, they're both pretty much shit.
Yeah.
I remember the P90 XL, and I was like, who are you even saying that to? These are like...
Yeah.
My favorite bad worst scene was at 1 hour and 25 minutes, and it's where they're infiltrating the house, and for some godly reason, they had, instead of shooting it at an actual house with the background, they have the security guard like right up close with like a blue screen behind him, and then Hailee Steinfeld just come up behind him and hit him with a baseball bat. They're clearly on a blue screen or green screen, one of the two, and it's so bad that if you look at her like hair, you can see like the ghosting that's happening around all of their bodies, and all it is a flat picture of the house. So either they forgot to shoot it, or they were like, we need to have a reason how she got in, and they did it after the fact. But it's like, how did you not shoot that at the actual house? They decided we're going to do it at a green screen. We also spent all of our money on Samuel L. Jackson, so we're going to go on to Fiverr and find somebody to do this for $5. Like, it was just so bad.
That is such a good point. There's so many, I know I mentioned it at the start too, but there's so many green screen failings in this movie, and I don't feel like I have a great eye for that, but I caught it time after time after time with the clipping on the hair, and sometimes the perspective just being wrong. That's like inexcusable for a movie, especially with this kind of budget. You can't
not
do
just
that.
the budget, but like 2014, 2015, it was not like the 90s where they're just like figuring out this technology. Like, it was a pretty well established, like 2008 they made that one shot scene in Star Wars Episode 3 that was all CGI. I know that's not the same budget, but you know, people should know by then, like the editors, the CGI people, they should probably like, you know, not just like look at it once and be like, hey, it looks good to me. Like, I don't know, like that's...
I feel like I mentioned this earlier, but like that first scene where she falls out of the plane that Eric, you referenced, and then we see the plane flying overhead. I had to stop and like ask myself, did I just see what I think I saw? Like, I'm pretty sure that was a fake ass plane not doing anything that planes do. And I stopped and rewind it. And I was like, yep, that was a fake ass plane, and it was so bad that I had to rewatch
They
it
just
twice.
paste the picture, and then the guy hits record, and he's like, okay, gotta drag this bad boy across here.
I mean, so we were in the post-Marvel age at this point. Like, Marvel had started, Avengers had came out. Okay, if you're going to try to use CGI, you're going to need more of a budget. They probably didn't have the budget to have the best CGI for this movie, but then don't even try to make this kind of movie if you don't have the budget for it, you know?
You know what movie had a budget of $15 million?
What?
Ex Machina.
Yeah, true.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
one best visual
Like,
effects.
holy shit.
Dude, fuck, like 2001
Damn
A
straight.
Space Odyssey came out in the late 60s and had better visual effects
68.
than this.
Yeah, that movie's amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's one of the most well-known movies for, like, practical visual effects, but, like, still.
Well, I think that leads us back to our theory of someone just gave the director, you know, fuck around money and said, have fun. Like, you know, famous people, like, Taylor Swift's your homie, we can just do this for funsies, and if it sticks, great. Otherwise, we'll forget about it forever. And clearly that's exactly what happened.
Well, the weird thing about even that theory is, though, then why even waste money on CGI? Like, if it's going to be a $15 million budget, you're not going to, like, care about CGI. Like, okay, the end scene, they go off in a helicopter, and they show a fake-ass helicopter flying over a fake-ass school. Why not just make that B-roll? You know, like, what was the point? Like, were they throwing it in our faces how bad it was? Because they weren't showing off any technology. Just show a B-roll of a helicopter going over a school, and you'll get the exact same effect without us going, why is this so terrible? You know, like, I don't get the, like...
It's poor planning.
The hardest I laughed.
Decision making, poor producing, poor everything.
Poor everything.
Yeah, like,
poor
everything.
They literally just made this movie to make a movie to either burn the money so that way they can later call it for tax breaks when it doesn't make money, and also so all the actors can stay a part of the guild and keep their insurance. Like this movie's a joke.
The hardest
There we go.
I laughed in this movie was the effect of Hailee Steinfeld falling out of the plane or something, and it was just this body falling down into the water at the weirdest speed. That's the hardest I laughed, and it was right at the start. I never laughed again. So something else I was going to ask everybody. So she does a lot of research on high school movies, Mean Girls being one of them. I wanted to ask if everybody has maybe a favorite movie that takes place in and around high school.
Eric already mentioned it, and that's Superbad for me, for sure. Quintessential,
Superbad,
fantastic.
way up there for
Watched
me.
it dozens and dozens of times. Great soundtrack, great acting, great.
I mean, there's
just
so
everything
many.
about the
Like,
movie.
just John Hughes' early, like, the whole Brat Pack was, like, amazing. My favorite movie that happens to take place to high schoolers is Remember the Titans. That's a sports movie more so than a high school movie. But, yeah, there's so many better just high school movies, like, out there. Don't bother with this one.
Edge of 17, I know you wrote it on your list here, but like Edge of 17 was another Hailee Steinfeld film. Took place in high school, and it was done very well. I actually really enjoyed that film. I wish this movie was a bit more like Edge of 17. Hailee Steinfeld, she definitely rebounded right away, because I think Edge of 17 came out not long after this. And so it seemed like she had a dud there. Then she did Edge of 17. She came out with a few songs, and now she's like an A-list celebrity. So
Yeah. I mean, everyone gets a hiccup. That's okay.
Cole, any high school movies you hold dear to your heart?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna consider it a high school movie, but Back to the Future. I
counts.
fucking love Back to the
Yeah.
Future. It is kind of in high school.
Yeah, no, I'd say so. There's a lot of scenes that are held around the high school.
If I had to go like true high school movie, Breakfast Club is a classic.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Superbad, obviously, you guys already said. If I go for a scary movie, The Faculty is a very good like creature feature set in like a high school kind of alien stuff. I really like that film.
So someone had mentioned the idea of doing like scary movie and how this kind of fits into that vein, and this feels like not another teen movie in that sense, right? Just that ridiculous, over the top. But that was actually more entertaining than this by every stretch.
A guy
of the
gets ripped in
imagination.
half in that movie. No one even gets shot with a real gun in this movie. Can we talk about that for a second? How many firearms are in this movie? And the only person to ever shoot a real bullet is at the very beginning with Jessica Alba, where she shoots down at her. What?
Yes.
Is there someone else that shot? Because they shot tranquilizer
No, the
darts.
sister
the
gets shot in the car scene. She gets shot in the leg. That's why she's in the hospital.
Yeah, they shoot with the silencer. All right, you got me there. So there's 2 guns that are shot in this whole movie, and not a
For a spy
and
movie,
not a
yeah,
single
you're right.
person dies.
Ridiculous.
I hate. Oh, they have a whole discussion on the roof about how she's never killed a person, even though she's a super tactical, crazy, like the top tier best. She's never killed a person. I hate it.
The first time needs to be special. Ah, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, the whole scene where I guess losing your virginity is both for shooting someone in the head and also having sex for the first time. So
We really should have realized when the opening movie or the opening line of this entire film was, "I never knew my parents." Like, we should have just realized it right off of the bat. We was just screwed from there.
I did a quick look up. Okay, I'm going to say Superbad's my favorite high school comedy movie, but then drama/darker movie, I'm going to go Donnie Darko.
That's not a high school movie, though.
But Carrie, also. I loved Carrie. Donnie Darko's a high school movie.
Just because it takes place in high school does not mean it's a high school movie.
Nearly all the main characters are in high
High
school.
school movie.
Yeah.
21
definitely.
Jump Street.
Carrie,
that's another good one.
do you call that a high
Carrie's
school
good.
movie?
Carrie's a high school movie.
Carrie's
Yeah,
a high
that's
school
a
movie,
classic.
for
Yeah.
sure. Anything involving prom.
Yeah.
All right, listeners and co-hosts, if you'll lend me your ear, I wrote a list of other high school movies that if you're in the mood for one, that you should watch instead of watching this movie. follow along with me. It is Mean Girls, as mentioned in this movie. Breakfast Club, American Beauty, Heathers, Clueless, High School Musical, Superbad, Perks of Being a Wallflower, Easy A, 10 Things I Hate About You, Napoleon Dynamite, Juno, Edge of 17, Grease, Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Grease.
Hey,
16 Candles,
settle down over there.
one we already talked about, The Spectacular Now, and I would even say Twilight is better than this movie.
Okay, I have one thing. American Beauty, Kevin Spacey jerking off in the shower. It's not really a high school movie. I'll say just one gripe with that, and then also, you put Say Anything on there, didn't you?
Didn't.
Oh, Say Anything, yeah. John Cusack holding up the boombox, classic.
You mentioned Napoleon Dynamite, and that one was like, oh, how did we forget that? Just because of that's ridiculous, the low budget and the whole thing that kind of turned off and awesome cinematic.
And that's a great example of a movie with just like a unique premise with a weird sense of humor that made everybody laugh. It was a cultural phenomenon. This movie obviously wasn't trying to be that. It was, as we're discussing, has to just be a money grab of some sort. It is the weirdest thing. It is the most straight-to-TV movie that I've ever seen from A24. Awful all around.
I agree. I think I saw a quote that said, basically, like, this would be a movie that someone would turn on and, like, flip on for a couple minutes on cable, and then just turn it off and never forget that it ever was there. Right?
Yeah. Cole?
You know what? Have you guys ever watched the show Even Stevens?
Was that the Shia LaBeouf?
That was the
Shia LaBeouf, yeah.
Yeah, so they made a TV movie where they go to compete on a TV show or whatever TV show, Island Survival or whatnot. This movie, for some reason, gave me vibes of nostalgia of that. And the whole entire time I watched this movie, I was just like, man, I wish I was watching Even Stevens. I wish I could change the channel and just go watch some Even Stevens. Because clearly, Nickelodeon ain't it for me tonight. I need to be back over on like the Disney Channel watching some Even Stevens. Because I fucking love that show. And I hated this, but for some reason, it just gave me nostalgia of like, man, I should go watch something good from like my childhood. Maybe I need like a palate cleanser.
Degrassi, The Next Generation.
I was not a Degrassi guy.
I was a big Degrassi guy. All right,
Eric, why don't you start us off with
Moving
ratings?
Okay, so I've had other films I've given an F to, and it's been Tusk, it's been Revenge of the Green Dragons, and Laggies. And now I'm looking at this film and I'm wondering, where does it fall? Like, so Revenge of the Green Dragons that was about as sloppy as this film. I'd say it's as sloppy, but the thing is, I feel like that was done by somebody that, like a 19-year-old in film school. This movie seemed like it was done by like a 12-year-old. Like the puns in here, the writing of the script, it was like the kind of jokes I had when I was 12 years old. I was not a funny kid, by the way. And and I just think that there were so many things that were sloppy about this film. And like Laggies, I mean, the writing of the script, the screenplay was pretty poor, but I can't call that film sloppy. Like it didn't have this kind of like attempt at green screen that this film had. And even Tusk, like at least I can see that Kevin Smith knows how to point a camera straight and put somebody in a walrus suit and actually make it horrifying in some kind of way. So I think I'm going to say that this is the worst A24 film I've ever seen. I'm going to give it an F-. And it's far and below every other A24 film I've ever seen, and don't know how the hell they made this film. And I'm sorry to Sophie Turner, Hailee Steinfeld. Like, I wish, you guys went on to have a much better career. I think you guys probably have some PTSD from this film, because I think you must have had some trauma going through shooting this.
Blaze, why
How
not
do
you
I
go
follow
next?
that up? Eric, you weren't a funny kid. You're not a funny adult. No, I'm just kidding. Oh. I'm just fucking with you. Yeah, everything that Eric said and more. I mean, to call this an A24 film, let alone a film, is an absolute joke to the art of cinema. And I say that very hyperbolically. I think anything can be art. And like I said, there were some genuinely funny parts in it in very small snippets. Seatbelts and condoms. I'll never forget that. That was hilarious. I'll forget where it came from, but it is hilarious. The writing was terrible. There was no cinematography. The comedic effects were terrible. I didn't know who it was trying to appeal to. Like, at least a movie where, like, if it was trying to appeal to a 14-year-old girl, I could be like, okay, I can at least see it from that angle. But like we kept saying, like, it wasn't exactly even in that, like, mold. It was just this YouTube channel called Red Letter Media. They do a way better job of explaining it than me. But it's all about this conspiracy theory where a lot of Hollywood productions are actually just slush funds for the directors and actors to pay for their yacht that summer. That being said, there's not much left I could say. I wish I couldn't even have to grade it. I wish I could give it an A, because that would give it validation to the other A24 films that we watched. I feel bad for every other film that I gave an F, because even like Eric said, even Green Dragons wasn't this terrible. Even that one mail truck movie wasn't this terrible. So when I go back, I'm never going to see this again. I hope it purges from humanity, and the worst part is that Satan knows what my forever torture is going to be. So that being said, F-24, just because I cannot give it any lower.
Kevin, you next.
Okay, what to be said that already has not been said, or what I already haven't said during this lovely review of ours? I personally have yet to give a movie an F-24. That's going to change tonight, plain and simple. Now, I will not go as far as Eric and Blaze, because I still want to give myself lower to sync, just for the sheer sake of having that option out there. I just can't imagine there being another movie that would be as bad as this one. It was ill-conceived from the very beginning. It has a dirty, perverted, weird title that does not lend itself at all to the theme of the movie. It certainly makes everybody feel creepy as you're watching it, from the sexual harassment aspects to the weird just flirtiness, and just everything about it is just cringe from top to bottom. Like Eric said, I feel bad for the A-list actors that have to associate their name with it, and I truly believe that there's something to be said about Blaze's conspiracy theory about Hollywood and slush funds and doing things for the sake of having them on the books. Took 2 months to film, and it should have taken 1. It was just brutal from start to finish. There was no polish. There was nothing redeeming whatsoever, minus some crass one-liners that we find funny because we're drinking alcohol and we're bored. Like, at this point, I really just want this movie to go away. I don't want to think about it or talk about it again, and it really only serves as an opportunity for us to show that A24 really went a long, long way from where it was at this time period to where we see it in 2022 and above. At the end of the day, this movie did nothing for me. I don't recommend it for anybody. It was a waste of a time, and I had more entertainment chatting with all of you than I had even for an ounce of this film. F-24, plain and simple, trash.
Cole, your turn.
Not that big of a surprise. I hated this movie. I think this is my least favorite film we've watched out of all of the films. And I've given some of them a pretty low rating. But it just saddens me so much that just 2 episodes ago we were watching Ex Machina, and now we're here. We're just like, we had the highest high and we came fucking crashing down. A24, like, why you gotta do this to me? Moral of the story is, don't make PG-13 films. A24, stick with rated R. You know you're good at it. You know that's what the people want. People don't want this bullshit PG-13 fucking kid stuff. I hated this film. I hated there's nothing redeemable about it. I will never recommend this to anyone, and I think no one should ever watch this. Yeah. Okay, Marcel the Shell might be good. I haven't watched it, but that is also almost, it's like 7 years down the road. They got a lot of things to figure out. Could be good. This is not what we need, okay?
All right, I'm happy to say that I won't be bringing the score up, everyone. This movie, we've covered it very much insofar as how awful it is. I don't know what else you could say. If somebody has anything good to say about it, I actually went digging to find someone who liked this movie, and it was this woman who is like this movie's only hated because it's about young girls. If it was a young boy story, it'd be in every theater from coast to coast. And I'm like, I disagree with you in every single way, lady. You're wrong. That's the only person that I found making a scathing positive review. Scathing positive. That's what I'm calling it. Anyways, Eric mentioned that this movie seems to be written by a 12-year-old. To me, it sounds like it's written by a 45-year-old who has always thought that they were 12 years old. Meaning, there's very perverted themes, as Kevin mentioned. There is no undertone, no themes, nothing to take away from this movie. It's just kind of pedo undertones at best. That's the only thing that I got from this. It's very gross, very icky, very much don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And if I wasn't supposed to talk on this podcast about it, I would have turned it off so fast. I love the description of it being just a movie that's on TV that you skip past after a couple minutes where you're like, oh, I've seen this actor before. Oh no, what are they doing? So I think it's unoriginal in theme. Nothing that made my brain light up ever. I think it's poorly produced, as we talked about the green screen, as we talked about nothing cinematography-wise to speak of. Who is this movie for? I still don't have an answer to that question. I don't know who could possibly enjoy this movie or who they were going to try to entertain with this. There were many times also in this movie where the lighting on people's heads was like a Lifetime movie, where it was very velvety. It was lit from their head and back, like a Sears picture when in the 90s. And it was very just soft and weird and out of place. And that's when it wasn't on a green screen. The line delivery, I've mentioned Nickelodeon many times. It's so Nickelodeon to me, but Nickelodeon's movies are better than this. There's no A24 vibes. Period. So, there's only one letter that stands for flop, stands for failure, and stands for forgettable. That's a F, and it doesn't even deserve that. I've already given my Fs out. This is worse. This is a F minus 24.
She.
Boom.